guys, and welcome again to another episode of Piano and Keyboard Artist, the channel where we discuss everything related to keyboarded musical instruments, synthesizers, pianos and artist development with me, Vaughan George. And today we're talking about Joe Jackson. Now if you're wondering who Joe Jackson is, don't worry, you're not alone. The first time someone said to me, do you know who Joe Jackson is? I said, yes, I know who that is. That's Michael Jackson's father. And yes, Michael Jackson's father is called Joe Jackson, but Joe Jackson, the Joe Jackson I'm talking about is the genius musical Joe Jackson, which started in the early 80s and he's still current and around. I really feel that Joe Jackson is so underrated. I'm hoping after this video a lot of you will go and check him out and see what I mean. I think it's because he's very, very musical, and I think he does sort of lean to a very sort of like musical jazzy kind of side, which is probably tends to make him less poppy and less mainstream and more sort of musical. And the goal of this video today, guys, is I want to take one of Joe Jackson's songs, which is a song he did, which was, I believe it was his first hit, which was released in 1982, was his song called Stepping Out. And I believe this song was written by him because he was living in New York at the time, and this was about inspired by his life in New York in 1982. So how I learnt about Joe Jackson was a few years back when I used to play in a piano bar. You know, it's like in a piano bar. And if you are a piano bar pianist or a hotel pianist or a cruise ship pianist, you can probably relate to what I'm saying now. Is people will often come up to you and they go, "Hey, do you know any, Billy Joel?" And then you go, "Yeah, I do." And then you go out. Don't go changing. And then you go, "Whew, that went well." So people will ask you to play things and you're like, if you know it, that's good. The general public are very unforgiving though, because they expect you as a hotel pianist or a piano bar pianist to be kind of like a jukebox, and you can only say no, so like, I don't know this. It's impossible to know everything, but you can only say no so many times and they'll be like, "Oh, he's crap." And to you, and I always say to people, please just be respectful of hotel pianists and, piano bar pianists. Remember, in order to get that kind of job as a piano bar pianist, you've usually got to have a huge repertoire of songs. Over 300 is about 300 is a minimum. You wouldn't go to an Elton John concert and expect Elton John to play anything else but his songs. When you go see Elton John, he sings Yellow Brick Road, he sings It's a Little Bit Funny, and Guess Why the Blues, and Rocket Man, and sometimes it's easier to be famous because you only need to do your songs, but when you're an unsigned piano bar pianist, the general public for some reason expect you to know everything. Guys, if you're at a piano bar, just bear that in mind, nobody can know everything. So I was at this piano bar and one of the customers there came to me and he said, "Oh, do you know any Joe Jackson?" And I went, "Isn't that Michael Jackson's father?" And he said, No, have you never heard of Joe Jackson?" And indeed, if you're watching this, if you're a younger person, you probably would have not heard of him. Indeed, he was a little bit before my time as well. But of course, when I got into Joe Jackson and I started to study him, I'm really heavily influenced by him. Although you guys are probably surprised to hear that, because you probably think I'm sort of like a Depeche Mode nut and a electronic music nut. And you're right, I love my electronic music, but when it comes to sort of what I like to call real music, and I'm not saying electronic music is not real, but I'm talking about sort of like real instrument music, I do love Joe Jackson. And the point of this video today is to illustrate, as I did on that video I did about a week ago, which was this one, which was called Erasure Synth Pop Perfection. And in that video I was illustrating to you guys how I feel Erasure songs are actually better than what most people think they are. Because I know sometimes pop music is usually, it has a certain tempo, it has a certain, it's usually between 3 and 3.5 minutes long, and sometimes people go, "Oh, it's pop, I don't listen to pop." But what I was illustrating in that video, and as some of you commented below, you didn't realize how good Erasure songs were. And it's often overlooked that when you hear pop music, and if you strip away all the electronics and the synthesizers and just strip it down to its bare chords and play it on a piano, then you will actually hear how harmonically rich and how genius a lot of pop music is, and and very much how underrated. And I think, as I say, Erasure is a classic example where the songs are brilliant, but because they're done with synthesizers, and some people are a bit snobbish towards synthesizers, they're not having it. But if you take you take an Erasure song and you play it on the piano, And people will be like, oh, it's a brilliant song. And you'll go, it's an Erasure song. They'll be, no, it isn't. Eraser's cheesy. I'm like, no, it's not. It's brilliant. So don't be a snob. Don't underestimate the power of pop. As I say, I googled up Joe Jackson, and the first thing that came up was his song Stepping Out. And those of you who are older will remember that Stepping Out was his, I believe it was his first hit in 1982. And it was an upbeat pop song. Up-tempo, 160 BPM, and the bass line was... and then the chords were... very fast, dun 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 dun, brilliant. So a very catchy song, but I did not realize how brilliant that song was until I heard his kind of live versions. And Joe Jackson is well known for when he goes live, he will change his song. He will just change it on the fly. I think this is a good time for me to just tell you I'm not musically trained. I've never had any sort of professional training. And it's quite funny, whenever you see someone playing a piano, you always assume they've been classically trained. I've had no formal training whatsoever. So understand when I talk about musical theory, I do coach people, actually, believe it or not, on the piano, but I come from it from a very sort of emotional kind of way. So so if you're like a grade 8 pianist, don't criticize me on my your technical knowledge. That is a 5th flat 7th diminished. Anyway, we're going off topic again. So as I say, the point of this is to illustrate the brilliance of how pop songs can be more than just pop songs. And to illustrate this, we're using the Stepping Out song. And as I showed you, the original version was very, very fast. But the two versions, and I'm going to put links to all these below, that blew my mind away for this song and really got me into Joe Jackson, was hearing his version of Stepping Out in 1986. He did a gig in Tokyo, in Japan in 1986. And it was a 4-piece band. And guys, this was an honest performance. No backing tracks or anything like that, and nothing wrong with that. I'm a big Depeche Mode fan who rely heavily on backing tracks, but this was just 4 proper musicians up there, a bassist, the drummer, guitarist, and Joe Jackson on the piano. And Joe Jackson also plays the saxophone, I must point out. Right, so let's run through that 1986 performance he did in Tokyo, which is one of my favorite. And this is not a note-for-note tutorial, guys. This is just, I just want to kind of talk about the general kind of vibe that he uses. And like with everything, he's very free, and I don't think it's too painstakingly rehearsed. It's just kind of very natural and on the fly. And he does these kinds of atmospheric runs, and then beautiful block chords and quite jazzy. And then he brings in this beautiful melody. Beautiful melody, that. And then he comes in his own time, and he's so relaxed and not rushed. He goes, the mist across the window has a light. He's not rushing, but nothing hides the color of the lights that shine. Electricity so fine, look and dry your eyes. And a few more runs. eventually he comes back in the second verse and he goes, young but getting old before our time. We'll leave the TV and the radio behind. Don't you wonder what we'll find stepping out tonight? And you'll see in that sort of free, nothing to prove, relaxed, atmospheric way he does it, it's so different to the commercial pop release, but it shows the brilliance of the song. I know some people say it's a bit self-indulgent, but and I believe he wrote this song as a ballad initially, and of course then he speeded it up, because a lot of times artists have to kind of compromise their creativity to consider what the public want. And then again, that's kind of, sometimes I think record companies in those days were kind of condescending and thinking, oh, the public are stupid and they want everything to be fast and up-tempo, and there's probably a reasonable argument for that within some cases, but I personally prefer, the point I'm making is I personally prefer that song done that way. Now I want to illustrate to you one of my other favourite versions, which a version he did in his 1991 or 1992 appearance in Sydney, Australia. And I'm going to quickly run you through that one. So what's interesting about this version is he transposes it a semitone lower. So with the original key being now, the mist across the window has a light. That's the original key. But listen how it changes by just bringing it down a semitone. Can you hear how just that drop in a semitone can change the tone, the colour, the timbre, and the general feel of the song? And I love the way he started that Sydney show in 1991, 92. I'll put the link below so you can watch it. He just comes in and he just sits down, and I'm going to run you through that now. Right, so in that version he just comes in and he uses a lot of sustain pedal, and he just does a few, he's very free flowing with it, just a few runs. Very free. It just comes straight in. Now, the mist across the window has the light, but nothing hides the colors of the lights that shine. Electricity so fine, look and dry your eyes. And then a great improvisation. We're so tired of all the darkness in our lives. And he brings in this little lick here. With no more angry words to say, we come alive. Get into a car and drive to the other side. And he just freewheels it, or just freely improvises. Something like that. And back in. We are young but getting old before our time. And then the little lick again. Leave the TV you wonder what we'll find. Stepping out tonight. Improvise. You improvise. Can dress in pink and blue just like a child. Improvise. And in a yellow taxi turn to me and smile. We'll be there in just a while. Help you follow me. Okay, I probably got a bit carried away there. And remember, this is not a tutorial or a note-to-note instruction video, guys. It's just, I'm just trying to sort of show you the kind of feel how the different feels and different approaches that he took with this song. And it also just proves not only his brilliance as a musician, but it also, as I said, the main thing I'm trying to illustrate to you here is when you listen to this song, and please guys, there's the 3 links below, listen to the pop version and then listen to those 2 sort of live piano versions, and you can really hear the brilliance in those versions. Right guys, so as always, please leave your comments below. Let me know what you think of Joe Jackson. As I say, whenever I start talking about an artist, it's always sort of like an introduction. I never want to sort of delve deeply into an artist. I really want to sort of like put a general video out initially just to see what your feelings are, and then we can elaborate on that. Guys, once again, I'm very grateful for the interest you guys are showing in the channel and in what I'm doing, and I'm so grateful. So guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, if this is your first time, I would love to welcome you on board to this like-minded, positive community. And I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below, introduce yourself, let me know who you are. And I'm really trying earnestly and diligently to respond to all of you. But I know it's getting harder and harder as time goes by. And with that note, guys, check out Joe Jackson, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. I hope you got good value from this, and peace out. See you next time.